We do that for no reason.
I was right.
I'm never here for them anymore.
They've been all in sixth grade.
Always experience, that's what it means.
No, we've had one
Yeah,
this
we've
period.
had one this
Like
period.
war.
Those, like,
Spits.
Except for last one, just Brexit and war.
what are you doing?
Mr. What you
What
doing?
you
Why?
doing?
I must start rewriting again because I won't do it on
Okay.
the videos.
Oh, I already forgot it.
So if you have it write down, great, but we might repeat again, so that way you can
Yeah, that's it.
know for sure. So what we're gonna do is, so like I said, 7 times 6. You cannot just write down 7 times 1 equal to 7, 7 times 2 is equal to this. So you're gonna have to understand how do you applying now. So what we're gonna talk about is this. We're gonna talk about sine of theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so cosine theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And you got tangent theta is equal to what?
Opposite over adjacent.
Opposite over adjacent. This is SOHCAHTOA. That's the basic thing about SOHCAHTOA.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go back. We can say, okay, well, in unicircle, unicircle, right? So unicircle is gonna have, well, just think about the first part of unicircle. Let's say it's pi over 6. Right here is 30 degrees, right? This is my y value, and this is my x value, right? And this is the radius of the circle. So therefore, I can say sine of theta is also equal to, well, this one's opposite, which is y. Hypotenuse is r. So cosine theta is equal to what? X over r.
I see what you mean.
Tangent theta is equal to what?
God damn it.
Y over x.
Whoa.
But that's more than that. So since r is always equal to 1 on unicircle, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what is sine theta equal to?
1. Y over 1.
Y.
Yeah.
Cosine theta is equal to what?
X.
X. Tangent theta is equal to what? Perfect.
Oh, my dad was trying to tell me this.
Oh wow.
Did that make sense now? Okay, so because the r is equal to 1, so therefore the sine theta is equal to y, cosine theta equal to x, tangent theta is y over x. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna apply this. So just for example, if I have the situation, if I have, so example, Sarah, can I see the whole board or no?
Yeah, but it's like far.
Oh,
Or-
move it closer.
Oh my god.
Just do it,
That's what we can
pause.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Isn't-
So example is gonna be, well, what is sine of pi over 6? Well, this one, just think about, well, sine pi over 6. Well, 30 degrees is pi over 6, right?
Yeah.
30 degrees pi over 6, then you say, well, that seems like it's a fat triangle. Fat and short, right?
Whoa.
It's a fat and short. So it's a triangle look like this, it's 30 degrees, 60 degrees, it's a wider triangle. It has more x. But the problem, sine is not looking for x. Sine is looking for what? Y. So what is the y value at pi over 6? Then you just say, okay, well, sine of pi over 6. The y value is going to be what?
Oh, did we 1 over 2?
What is sine cosine of pi over 6. That means what's the y value at location pi over 6? And look at your unit circle. What is the y value when it's a pi over 6?
Oh, it's, isn't it relative to 32?
Nope.
One over, yeah, just one over two.
1 over 2.
What?
She says she says square root 2.
No, I said 1 over 2.
Okay, 1 over 2. So it's equal to 1/2. See, that's why I told you. You have to know what 7 times 6 now. You cannot just go over on unit circle. You say, okay, so it turns out all the pi over 6 are exactly the same thing. If I were to ask you what? Cosine of 5 pi over 6. What does that mean?
Cosine of what? 5 pi over 6? Oh, we're gonna
Negative.
damn, we're gonna have to memorize this.
Yes. You cannot just like say, oh, I know what's 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4. You have to know what is the location now.
Square root of 3 over 2.
Yeah, but you look at unit circle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so next time, if I see a unit circle around that's not empty, I rip it off.
Put that away, Jeffy. Oh, that was dirty. Put that one.
Yeah, I will rip it off. You have to understand that unit circle, it need to be imprint inside your head now. You cannot just always, can you imagine that you're taking a test has a multiplication table in front of you? Not anymore. You have to know where the location now. 5 pi over 6 is that second quadrant. Okay? And it's the short and fat.
Oh, so it's
But we're talking about cosine. We look at how fat it is and not how tall it is. So he's fat, so there must be square root of 3 over 2. And that's go in the second quadrant, it must be negative.
Oh, damn.
Okay, so that's negative. So I'm gonna give you the try one. Now I'm gonna post the unit circle template in front of it. I'm not gonna give you. Please check your template.
Good morning, thanks for teachers, pardon interruption. I apologize for the late reminder. It is fourth period.
No.
We are well into fourth period. At this time, your attendance should have already been submitted for fourth period. If it has not been submitted, please do so at this time. Remember, our goal is to submit attendance the first 10 minutes of every period, every day. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, so now I have a unit circle. 5 pi over 6. 5 pi over 6 at the second quadrant. All the pi over 6 has wider. It's wider. So wider x. So there's a wider x. So therefore it must be square root of 3 over 2. But it's the second quadrant, x must be negative. So it'll be negative square root of 3 over 2. If you miss the sign, is it wrong? Yes.
I mean,
Okay, so now, ready for questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's do with the example first one. I'm gonna ask you, what is cosine of 11 pi over 6? The second one, I'm gonna ask you what is sine of 4 pi over 3. Okay? You cannot look at unit circle. Look at the position there. Look at where the 4 pi over 6, 3 is. Is that a tall triangle or a short triangle?
it's a short triangle. X.
You can look at empty one, not a full one.
Square-
The
square
full
root-
one is like you saying, you're reading the multiplication table.
What's square root of 3 over 2?
Think about it. You guys can write it down. You guys can write it down.
First one?
The first one's square root of 3 over 2.
It's square root of 3 over 2.
Oh my god.
Want to bet?
Me,
So
Jeffy.
now we are applying now. They're different. So your quiz on Friday is gonna be different. It's gonna be like this now.
Some nice rings on.
Mr. Yeah, like keeps you saying it.
And if you got your answer, talk to your leader, see if it's true or not.
Yeah, you're right.
You get it?
Let's go, Miss. I don't even have to look at it. I know it now.
Hey, Jeff, I just get a little.
See, what happened was I just didn't know my reading. Now I got it. Like somewhere in there, it's starting to click.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Why? This one?
Prove that when the test comes.
Watch tomorrow, but I got you, Miss.
Hey, did he say it's tomorrow?
He said it's gonna be. Wait, we're taking one for sure tomorrow. It's just gonna be
He
random.
said whenever.
It's gonna be random, any time I choose.
Oh,
It
psych.
can,
But
it can be
tomorrow.
tomorrow, could be Friday, could be any time.
So,
It's gonna be like, hey, psych, now is a.
Watch. Saturday comes.
Hey,
Hi,
yeah.
come up.
Open the door, open the front door, here's your unit circle, you've been served.
Okay.
Mister, I would cry.
Square root of 2 over 2.
Square
Yes,
root
it
of
is,
2 over
'cause it's
2.
even.
Square root of 2 over
That's
2.
my reasoning, it's even. Yes, it is.
It would be in the middle.
No, what do you mean? Square root of 2 over 2.
You're talking about the second one, right?
Yeah, it's the second one. He said-
You wanna bet? I'll bet you $1 right now.
He keeps saying listen, I don't trust it.
Bet.
Yo, what's he looking at?
It's
lost.
How?
I
For
know.
number 2? The square root of 2 over 2?
That's on the edge, it's not gonna be 2 over 2.
No, it's not.
I'm gonna show you how it is. Okay, you lost.
I'll show him.
No, cause
Yo, 4 pi over 3 is right here.
yeah, he was looking over there. Yeah.
That
So the
ass?
distance here, it'd be 3, 2, 1, I think. Yes, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, that was
So it'd be
3,
like 1 over 2. Give me that $1, boy.
I got you.
Well, it turns out you should have bet it's with him. It's not 1 over 2.
Yeah.
I just knew it wasn't his answer.
Negative 1 over. Yeah, that's why I said
I
maybe.
just
Well,
knew it wasn't.
technically we were both wrong.
Yeah, technically you're right.
Okay, so 11 pi over 6, right? So think about 11 pi over 6. Are they tall triangle or are they wide triangle?
Why?
Yeah, what?
It's called-
They are wide triangle. Because 11 pi over 6 is located right here. So it's located right here. Because it's closer to 12 pi over 6. So if you look at a triangle, it's wider triangle.
This type
So
of-
therefore, it's gonna be, this one x is gonna be wider, so it's gonna be square root 3 over 2, and it's not negative because it's to this side. Okay? Now let's sign up 4 pi over 3. Is that a tall triangle or that's a wide triangle? Tall. Because 3 pi over 4, so this is 1 pi over 4, 1 pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3, so it's roughly right here. So then you look at the triangle, it's a taller triangle, and since they are in the 4th quadrant, so that's gonna give me negative. So it'll be negative square root 3 over 2. How many of you guys got it right?
I
Me.
told
That's the
you.
first one, right?
He said I was
I
wrong.
got the first one.
Okay, good. Yes.
I'm like, what do you mean?
Michael? You
I
got it?
was smart for once.
I got it right on.
Cause look, it's in the.
Okay, so you ready for another one?
Yeah.
Okay, so third.
Did you not get it?
Okay, let's go with another easy one. So let's go with the cosine.
What day?
And let's go with the one that you probably don't know.
I'm pretty sure I know that one.
What is it?
Is that square root of 2 over 2? What you-
No.
Wait, shut up.
Yeah.
You kids keep looking over there.
We're allowed to.
I can't see that. Okay.
Ken, wake up.
Ken was
Is it this
dreaming. Ken was dreaming about this lesson.
No, it can't be 0.
How?
How would you get
What?
negative 1?
The x
Yes,
becomes
it
0.
is.
0
Yes, it
is
is.
1.
How did you get negative 1?
Cosine is x.
He said no.
It's no. Do you want to bet on
Actually,
it?
Listen, I don't know it
Do
though.
you
I
wanna
said
bet on
if
it?
I don't know.
I'm sure my
Wait.
No.
Is it?
Oh,
so
never
wait,
mind. I
zero,
wasn't
zero,
right.
zero,
I wasn't
zero,
right.
zero.
Yeah.
Why is it-
Yeah.
Alright.
Good job.
No, that's not what I. Yeah. Cause I think about, cause I was like, oh, now I'm not what that is.
Cosine is the x or y?
It's
Alright.
X.
X.
I
X.
thought it was Y.
At 3 pi over 2, where's that?
2, 7.
Right there.
It's right there. Do you have any x value?
Yeah, I can visualize it.
Do you have any x value? Then here is 0 and negative 1, right?
Yeah.
So that's equal to 0.
Oh, I told you.
Should have been.
I told you.
See, I thought it was Y.
Hey, I got number 1.
This is the one thing I can do. Shut up.
Okay, so let me get another one. What is sine of 7 pi over 6? And let's go with the cosine of 7 pi over 4. So let's go with the first one and the second one.
7, I think I know what's the cosine one?
Cosine of 7 pi over 4?
Pretty sure I know 7. I didn't see him one of them.
Okay. Just like the one.
Oh, I didn't mean to wake you up.
Haven't done
I meant
it
to
yet.
wake the
Calm
other
down.
kid up. So you're gonna wake him up.
It's not. I can't do anything else.
Because that kid actually knows what he's doing. The other kid doesn't.
You can't beat someone for that.
Uh,
You got it?
I feel like I'm wrong, but at the same time I don't.
What's that?
What you get for formula?
For what? Wait.
That's why I got screwed.
Nope. I don't think that.
Oh,
Oh.
it's Y.
Yes,
It's
right.
Y. It's
Because
Y.
it's right there, it's a person.
Yeah, I'm not saying
Spend money on
And
it.
the X is negative 1. Because 1, 2,
Yeah, you're
I
right.
think I
Negative
say
one.
come on.
No, I was
2, 3.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I was thinking because I forgot
Sine
that
is
was Y.
Y.
Okay.
No!
Wait, 7 power 4.
See, I'm proud of myself for once.
So that's 7 pi?
7 pi over 6.
I think.
7 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 4.
So you're good in the.
Man, rewriting this unit circle a whole bunch of times really did help.
4 is 6.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's 6.
Really?
Probably not many people pass.
It's close enough.
Okay,
At least
so
you
let's
know.
start with Nick. What do you think his answer is?
Negative 1 half.
No, it's just one.
Negative 1/2 is perfect. How many of you guys got negative 1/2? Okay, what happened to the rest of you guys?
He got 1 half.
Oh,
So you okay?
It's on the bottom part.
yeah.
Huh? Oh, you have to know your unit circle first.
Plus on the chops.
Okay, so look at 7 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6 is right here. Is that tall or short? It should be wider, right?
Yeah.
Do you see that wide? And wide and the short, so therefore, is short is negative half. Because sine is short, like wide and short, so this must be half. But it's negative because that third quadrant, so y is negative over there. Okay? 7 pi over 4.